Jane Doe recently took the stand in the P. Diddy trial, and y'all, the explosions, the fireworks, the bombshells that were going off while she was on the stand, next level, and we're talking about it in today's video.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. We got a sofa right here, but you can only see the back of it because my name's Paul and I'm sitting in front of it. Y'all, my name is Paul if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, my name is still Paul. Okay. Now, like I said, we are going to be talking about Jane Doe, victim in the P. Diddy trial. She took the stand for quite some time. Major stuff came out. Before we even get into like the play-by-play kind of stuff that I'm going to go over, I want to talk about two big things. First of all, the whole thing of like who is the other rap icon that loves the freak offs and this, that, and the other and was unnamed, and you know, they want to put him out there. I've seen, and I don't even know, see, this case makes me nervous to even talk about names, but two names. One of them who we're going to speak about who showed up after the testimony, and then one of the biggest faces on the planet right now, as well as his wife who just dropped a country album. You do the math on that, okay? Those are the two names that I'm seeing most people hypothesize that it is, right? So dying to hear who you think it is in the comment sections, okay? Because it's very interesting. Obviously, this person doesn't want their stuff out there, right? So you know why the defense is like, hey, let's drop the name, let's drop the name, let's drop the name. Now, another huge thing that went off with this was the jury getting to hear some of these phone messages, right? A huge one that, you know, was everyone's talking about or whatever was the voice notes or whatever between P. Diddy and Jane Doe, him talking about like, you're my crack pipe, and she's like, yeah, you're real for that, and like all this stuff or whatever. But they're hearing these conversations go on. So they're hearing his voice, and like a lot of the talking like figurehead lawyer people say, this is the closest, you know, you'll get when a defendant doesn't testify. This kind of becomes their testimony. One of the things that, you know, sticks out to me about it is the way that he gaslights, manipulates, kind of pushes things in the direction that he wants him to go. We're gonna hear what she had to say, Jane Doe, all that type stuff, right? But just listening to it, I was like, yeah, this is one of those people, say you've dated somebody that has traits like P. Diddy seemingly does, and they're not even doing stuff like the horrible stuff that he's doing, but they're just kind of like a narcissist or whatever, so they know how to manipulate you and how to say things to make you do whatever. That's what it's giving, but like on steroids obviously with this. So we'll get more into my opinions on that, but those were the two first things that the most I've gotten asked about were those two things about that. So we'll talk about them more as well, but let's go ahead and just get into the overall gist of some of the things that were said on the stand. This is like week 5 going into this trial, okay? So we have up here another alleged victim, accuser. She was on the stand. She wanted to remain anonymous, like I said, and she was up there for 6 days, going by Jane Doe. Now, she is a single mother who prosecutors claim was roped into Combs' empire of sex parties and abuse, end quote. Obviously, before we get into this as well, with the other video that I said too, major trigger warning. Y'all, this is going into, especially what we're going to talk about here today, major details of her experience as a victim of physical, emotional, sexual abuse, all of that. So just remember, if you or a loved one are in any kind of situation like this, I'm going to put the link for RAINN up here, and it's going to be down in the description below. It's the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. Do what you got to do, right? Now, let's go ahead and jump into some of that testimony. So Jane would say that she was, and I'll quote her, almost instantly drawn to Combs when they first met. He seemed larger than life. He was charming and passionate when he spoke, end quote. Now, the two started dating like early 2021. They remained together until the time of his arrest, until 2024. Now, things progressed very quickly between these two, okay? We're talking about luxe trips. And she said that these were, quote, fueled by love, lust, and extensive drug use, end quote. Now, Jane also confessed that Pandora's box, I was gonna say Panera's box, you can tell I'm hungry, right? But she confessed that Pandora's box was open in May 2021 when she consented to have sex with another man while he watched. Now, she said that this would basically like set the tone for the relationship going forward. She said that the encounters became, I'll quote her, so frequent and intense that she suffered consistent urinary tract infections. Okay, I can't wait to talk about my opinions on this. So I'm gonna try and hold them for the end, y'all, but I'm just gonna let you know I'm probably gonna have stuff to say along the way because this one's just whoa. Okay, so anyways, she was part of these freak offs, as they're called in this case, for quite a while. She attempted to gain some control though by choosing the escorts who she would sleep with. Now, late 2023, she tells P. Diddy, in this very long text message, that these, I'm going to quote her, dark encounters made her feel disgusted with herself. Now, clearly he's kind of like, okay, right? Like, what, you're going to cause me problems? Now, Jane Doe also said that she did feel this like obligation to keep him happy, in part because she cared for him. She really liked him. But secondly, she says she was also really afraid that he was going to stop paying her rent. It's like $10,000 per month. Okay. So, but we'll get more into that because there's layers to that as well. Now, at one point, P. Diddy comments that he didn't like her teeth or something like that. So he buys her veneers. Then, just like clockwork, these type personalities, he uses that as leverage, and he'll send her this text. He'll go over it in court, and it reads, and I'll quote, "Look at the roof over your head and that pretty smile," end quote. Now, Jane would say on the stand that it got to the point with Sean, with Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him, that he didn't have to directly ask her for hotel nights with male prostitutes. I knew it was to be expected, end quote. Hotel nights is kind of the same as like freak offs, right? So just if you're new to this, hotel nights, freak offs were kind of just overlapping, right? It's a night of debauchery, right? So there's that, keep that in mind. One of the men that was doing this, getting all the hotel nights and sleeping with her in front of Diddy, all this stuff, that was his personal trainer. Okay, Jane Doe would testify that she last saw him like July 2024. So do the math on this. Okay, that was when he was still under federal investigation. So all that's going on, he's kind of like, okay, we're out here doing my thing. We're out here doing what we got to do in his world. Okay. Now, Jane Doe does assert that she did see the exchange of money take place between Sean and the escorts, and she also, notes like, Diddy would have these detailed instructions, and it would include like, okay, this is how you're going to use the baby oil, so on and so forth. Now, at one point, the prosecutor would ask, quote, "How did you respond to this?" And Jane testified, "On command." Now, Jane would also say, like, when you want to talk about like these recordings and things like that, because that's one of the things in this case that has been thrown out there is like all these Hollywood people are like, what's P. Diddy got on me, right? And I personally think that that was part of it. Like, I think he got off on knowing that he held all this power over these people. Now, Jane Doe would say like, oh yeah, he never recorded me when I was sober, right? And she was like, and I didn't enjoy sleeping with these escorts, but she felt like she had to put on a good show. Now, Jane Doe would also recount on the stand her birthday back in 2023. And this is when P. Diddy like invited her to Miami. Now, she was thinking, she's like, oh, this is going to be, and I'll quote her, quality time with my partner. And she's like, I'm going to go down here. This is going to be nice. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. She's like, it wasn't that though, okay? It ended up being more of the same stuff. She ended up having sex with 3 different men in addition to P. Diddy. So just do the math on that. You think, oh, I'm going down to Miami, this special little birthday, whatever, and you're getting down there and he's passing you around, right? Now, she would get very emotional. She would break down, and she detailed and goes, through the events of the weekend. And I'm going to quote her. She says, I just gulped. I had this gulp moment like something was stuck in my throat because I didn't expect that. He said, well, it's your birthday. I thought you wanted to have fun. You should try something new for your birthday. And I just accepted it. She would also testify to having to break laws for him. She was like, yeah, I had to carry drugs for him. I did it from LA to Miami twice. And she was like, he would direct me to go to his Beverly Hills residence. And then security would give her the package and she'd go through the whole thing, right? Now, she also explains that she felt trapped in the dynamic with him. So she was like, if I decided that, I would have the choice of who was going to be doing what to my body, I should try and make it better for myself, right? This whole thing gets so layered and textured because of what was going on here. Like, you have this whole thing where he's created this little world that she's living in, right? And it's almost like, how do I get out of it? How do I escape this? I want to have some form of control over this. Well, then when this takes place and it's like, I'm trying to do what I can do to, like, say, survive or get to whatever. Well, then court's like, oh, well, you said you wanted to do this. You said, it's so complicated. The victim shaming in this, that I feel like, at least from my unprofessional opinion, is coming from the defense. It's just, ugh, right? I understand, again, the defense, everybody gets a defense, okay? We, of course, want this. But it just gets icky when you feel like people are going after victims of the cases and whatnot. So anyways, I'll get off my little high horse. Let's keep going. Now, she would also relay an agonizing story to the court about an instance in June 2024. So this is not like, what, a year ago at this point, when Diddy allegedly choked, punched, and kicked her in a rage. Now, the fight apparently escalated from verbal to physical when she confronted him about her belief that, and I'm going to quote, he took a different romantic partner on a family vacation, end quote. And she said that she remembered that she was angry and pushed his head into a marble kitchen counter when he bent over like he was about to tie his shoe, end quote. And then apparently it only got like worse from there. You can only imagine, right? She said that Sean proceeded to bust down 4 doors in her house, trying to get at her. She was trying to run, hide, all this type of stuff. Now, Jane Doe continued to detail this experience on the stand, and she explained how he proceeded to lift me onto my tippy toes in a chokehold before I ran about 6 blocks barefoot and hid near a wall for 2 hours. Then, thinking the coast was clear, I returned to my house, she says, and he attacked me again, punching me in the face and kicking me on the ground. Then he demanded I use ice, makeup, and a new hairstyle to camouflage the black eye and welts on my head because he wanted to book a male escort for an impromptu hotel night to round out the evening, end quote. Okay, now here's the thing on that right there. And with with this part of it, I was like, oh, what he's doing, in my opinion, I can see this going down where he gives her this beat down and he's like, oh, we're having a hotel night tonight and it's gonna be a rough one. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was like this power / punishment that he would inflict and also get whatever sick pleasure it was. Again, this is all alleged, right? Okay, I wasn't there, I don't know, okay? He hasn't been convicted yet, I get that. Yeah, but on the basis of, like, let's say her testimony, we're taking it at face value, right? And the other testimony too, not just hers, like just what he seems to be into. Like, the way I view it, and again, I'm not a doctor, not a therapist, none of that fancy stuff, but if somebody's into doing this to other people, there's an element of power there. There's an element of control there where he's enjoying seeing someone suffer, but getting this, like, pleasure from it at the same time. It's twisted. So anyway, let's keep going. She gets, obviously gonna imagine, she's like super upset in the stand, right? And then she'll like talk about these humiliating sexcapades where she was like basically forced to go along with whatever Sean is directing, right? Then she told the jury about one time where she was like, it was the longest hotel night, which lasted 3.5 days over New Year's Eve 2022. 3 days, okay? Now, she testified that twice she tried to endure a hotel night without drugs, but she said it wasn't easy. It was just too real that it was happening, end quote. So you can imagine going through a 3-day, sexcapade binge, like major drugs are involved, right? I don't know how she would really do that without those, like how would you physically even stay awake, right? So there's that. Now, cross-examination comes. Now, the witness gets pressed about how she reasoned that participating in these sordid sex sessions if she really didn't want to. And this is what I'm talking about. Now, Jane Doe would say, and again, I'll quote her, I deeply love Sean and wanted to satisfy him despite everything I put on blinders, end quote. So then she gets asked about her feelings for Sean that she was talking about when she was on direct examination, and she told the prosecutor, I'll quote, I just pray for his continued healing and I pray for peace for him, end quote. And then later on cross-examination, when she was asked if she still loves Sean, she said, I do. Now, it turns out that apparently Sean is a true crime fan, right? I mean, I guess at this stage in the game, like, who isn't? But it's just as always weird when you see people doing this where they're true crime friends, but they're doing this crazy next level stuff at the same time like this. And apparently it comes out, his favorite show is Dateline. So it's just like, okay, that's so weird. I think that he's like watching that while we are, right? Possibly while he's doing this like horrifying stuff. Now, Now, from in-house, in-court reporting, there was a reporter from Rolling Stone, Cheyenne Roundtree. Now, she said that as Jane was like going through all her experiences and going through the cross-examination in general or whatever, she said that her responses became increasingly testy. Now, she said at one point, Geragos, the defense lawyer, basically was saying that her anger was, quote, fueled by jealousy that he spent time with other girlfriends. She's talking about, you know, obviously P. Diddy. Now, Jane kind of agreed with that, and she said, I found it frustrating that as Sean was trying to plan the hotel night with me, he was simultaneously spending quality time with another woman. She in turn would get expensive gifts like a Chanel bag, yet it was expected that she sleeps with two different men. Now, and that's the part too. So imagine this, like imagine you're sitting here, and now say this, you're sitting here, right? You're having to do this debauchery with Sean or whatever, but he's over here hanging out with this other woman. I personally think Sean is the type, again, don't know him, this is alleged, this is Sofa speculation, but these type of people oftentimes will be victimizing one person, but treating someone like gold over here, but it's all part of the victimization of this person because they want the person that they're being mean to or whatever to see, why is he like normal with her? Why does she get to do the wifey stuff and I'm the street stuff? It's all part of that, but it's like, make no mistake, the other person that seemingly has that is getting victimized in some other way, right? You might not see it might not be obvious, but my experience with these types is like, oh honey, everybody's getting victimized in some fashion. And I'm not trying to, you know, sit here and negate Jane Doe's feelings or whatever. I'm just using a hypothetical situation of my own experiences and what I've seen, because when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, he seems like the type that would do this, right? That would be like, you know, oh no, she's a good girl. I'm not gonna do those things with her. That you're only good for that kind of a thing, that mental abuse, whatever. So now then Geragos is going to bring up the whole money thing, right? This is going to come up, okay? So the defense will attempt to make Jane Doe look like very materialistic, and at one point, the defense says to Jane, I'll quote, and you didn't get the Chanel bag? And this is about what she just said. Jane Doe kind of comes back for her in this. And this is what I'm talking about with the victim shaming and stuff going on here. Jane says in response to that, no, I only got trauma. So she's giving it back. Like, you know, she's up there doing that, but nonetheless, she's, you know, she's getting victimized in a sense by the defense as well, right? We've seen this in the other true crime cases that we follow. Now, the defense is going to give it right back to her. They're just like, oh, no. And they'll say to her, and I'll quote, Sean actually bought you a Van Cleef necklace and a different designer bag, end quote. And then Jane said, after 3.5 years, I really don't think I garnered much from this relationship. You know, and again, if you want to relate it all down to just things like bags and jewelry and whatnot, I mean, come on, right? So this tug of war goes on, okay? And it's just, it is what it is. Then at one point, you know, the defense is like, okay, clarify what a bodega bag is. And then Jane says, you probably got a purse of your own. So then the defense snaps back with that and they're like, no, I don't. And they go further and they're like, you know, okay, let's talk about the price of this. It's like the Bottega Veneta handbag. I'm probably butchering that name or whatever. Like, how much is that? And then Jane says, how much does my body cost? Right? So it's like, yes, the defense, and often in these cases, this is what we see where the defense tries to go with, this is only a money grab. That's all that's going on here. That's what this is, right? And so the victim's sitting here and it's just, you know, and again, not denying that there are some cases out there where that takes place. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like strictly, it could even be made up, right? Where the person even did, like, nothing ever happened. I don't think that's the case in this case. I think there's enough evidence of like, whoa, like a lot was going on here, okay? A lot with many different people. So yeah, so the defense is giving it to her, but she's giving it right back, okay? Now how that will sit with the jury, I don't know. That's one of the things where being there in the courtroom helps a lot. Obviously not there. Now, again, during this back and forth, Jane at one point kind of speaks to the jury and she tells them, I see things entirely different from the defense. I was in a chaotic whirlwind of a dark life that I was not proud of. Now, speaking of the jury, there's a little bit of jury drama itself. I'm going to put a screenshot up here and I'll read through it. So you see here on the screen, it talks about, you know, the jury left the room on Thursday and the judge said that he saw Combs look at the jury and, quote, nodding vigorously during the cross-examination of Brianna Bungalan, a former graphic designer for Combs and a longtime friend of Combs' former girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura. The judge warned Combs' lawyers that if he saw it again, it could result in the exclusion of your client from the courtroom. Quote, there should be no efforts whatsoever to have an interaction with his jury, end quote, the judge added. Combs' lawyer said that it would not happen again. Now, also the jury was drumming up their own drama, right? It seems to always pop off these days with every jury, right? Prosecutors seek to replace a juror. Prosecutors this week sought to replace a juror after they said they found inconsistencies in the answers to where he lives, raising questions about the credibility and whether he has an agenda for sitting on the panel. During jury selection, the man said he lived in the Bronx, but prosecutors claim he told a court employee that he recently moved to New Jersey. Only residents of New York can serve as jurors in Manhattan federal court. Under questioning by the judge, the man admitted to moving, but said he still holds a New York driver's license and stays there during the week. Prosecutors said the juror's dismissal is required due to his conflicting answers, but Diddy's defense alleged the man was being singled out in thinly veiled effort to dismiss a black juror. On Friday, the judge said he would consider replacing the juror with an alternate, but assured the defense the jury would remain diverse. Okay, now also remember how at the beginning I was talking about Kanye and all that or whatever? So let's talk about that for a second, okay? Everything's going on, then bam, Kanye West, in a show of support and solidarity, we might call it, attended the trial on Friday the 13th. Now, he wasn't allowed to come in like the actual courtroom itself, I believe. He wasn't on the defendant's, official list or family associates, all that type of stuff. He got like reserved seating and whatnot. But he did, I think he was like in the media overflow room. Another reporter from Rolling Stones, Nancy Dillon, and remember Cheyenne Roundtree, she's in the reporting too. They offered some details on the scene, and they said a nonchalant, that word, West stood and watched from a large closed circuit monitor as Jonathan Perez, Combs' former personal assistant, gave testimony. Within minutes, more curious spectators flocked to the floor to catch a glimpse of the controversial rapper. Shortly after, West motioned to Christian, Combs' youngest son, that he was ready to leave. Then he swiftly left the Manhattan courthouse within an hour of his surprise arrival. Now, obviously, Jane Doe is reliving a lot of really terrible things and then going through it with the defense and getting grilled and the whole 9 yards, right? Is with the other victims in the case who are getting there speaking as well. Now, one of the things that was interesting is when Jane Doe was told, like, she was done, whatever, she's leaving the stand, she walked up to the prosecutors, and I'll quote her here, and gave her a warm embrace before proceeding to the defense attorney and hugging her too. I mean, come on, right? That's wild, and in a good way. So I was like, okay, so let's do this. Let's kind of end some of the overview here or whatever, because again, it's like 6 days worth, but I wanted to talk about just some key points that really stuck out here. The Kanye West showing up. I'm curious what y'all think. We obviously know that there's a lot of big Hollywood names, and I'm not going to sit here and, if you follow this, then you already know right off the bat, like some people that were thinking of musicians and people like that, some musicians who seem to be going through some pretty heavy stuff right now, other rappers, actors, whatever. One of the things that's like, whoa with this is, first of all, obviously, whoever this other mega famous rapper is, which I mean, how many of them are there, right? When you're talking about the level that it's insinuated to me, literally only a few names, and some of them aren't alive anymore, okay? Because I'm thinking, obviously, Biggie and Tupac, but they're not, I mean, that was years ago they died, but I'm talking about that level of fame, that level of notoriety. Puff Daddy, the other two, I don't want to say their names, one was in court, the other one's wife did a country album recently, the faces of hip hop basically. There's not many other people to me that are of that stature that I'm like, right, that have been around for that long. So I think it's one of those two is what I'm getting at. Now, which then lends you to say, was Kanye showing up as a form of support or a form of I'm watching for anybody there? You see what I mean? That dynamic right there. When you want to talk about Cassie, when you talk about Jane Doe, my thing is I do consider them victims. There's other things going on. The money stuff of being kind of stuck in that, and what do I do, and this and the other. To me, the vibe that I get out of this is almost like, and I don't know if you've seen the movie New Jack City, but New Jack City, if you haven't, it's a great movie. It's an older movie where they kind of take control of the city block, and they're run their game, and they're doing this and they're doing that, whatever. To me, what's come to light is that someone's like, oh wow, Puff Daddy is the music business, right? I mean, we kind of knew this, but to the degree that it's like, oh whoa, this guy's like big time, and it's almost almost like he's running his enterprise like the mafia. And it's just like, okay, but for what? Through force, through this, you know, and again, this is alleged. You know, he hasn't been convicted yet. You know, I'm coming after me, good Lord. But he's like running it through force like this, okay? Like the mafia, like the streets, whatever. And so it's like unchecked. I guess that's the thing that keeps coming to my mind is I'm like, this is somebody with like unlimited money and power that's completely unchecked, and they are just doing whatever they want, whenever they want to, whoever they want. That's the vibe I'm getting. Now, also the things that he's allegedly doing, and like I said earlier, you know, we were talking about, you know, the hotel nights, and okay, well, we're gonna, you know, oh, you want to back talk me, we're gonna have a hotel night now. One of the things that comes up to me is I'm like, when is this man working at this point? Seems all he does. I mean, I guess at this point he's running all these things like it's later in his career, whatever. How does he find the time to do this? It's almost like this is now his hobby, right? And he's probably making so much money from these enterprises. He was doing this like during the investigation, you know, if everything's true, right? So I don't know. It's just, this is the most sickening, bizarre case I have seen in so long. And I'm talking about, I know that you might be like, well, Paul, what about the Lori David or whatever? It's almost like this is just this different category of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the celebrity part of it, the whole, you know, the sexual violence, like all of that. It's just this completely different thing that I'm like, my God, the depravity of it. You know, the things that allegedly that were taking place and being done to people, I cannot, right? So anyways, I'll get off my little soapbox now. Anyways, I do appreciate you if you're still watching this. Biggest thing, who do you think the rapper is, right? Who do you think the other person is? I'm dying to know. Also, you saw the thing with Stephanie Sue talking about, oh yeah, he turned around and looked at me and said like, I know you, or something like that. So I'm not quite done yet. One of the things that's also interesting is hearing how he's like in there charming the jury, you know, and oftentimes we even see, like, think Ted Bundy, like these people can be very charming, you know, and very like, when they want to turn that on, they turn that on, they can pull people in. And then in some situations it's too late, right? Especially when you're holding the power of somebody's career, somebody's this, somebody's that. Those power dynamics are very, very bad. Very, very bad. Okay, now I'm officially done. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. If you're still watching, I do thank you. While you're in that comment section, if you could pretty please drop some little sofas off for myself, Roscoe in spirit, Bo and Luke, and you, the Sofa Squad, so I'll have a place to hang out and talk about P. Diddy, Tiffany Slayton, Lori Daybell, you name it, all the cases we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. Until we all gather down there in the comment section to do so, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that, hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.